before we go live on Facebook, can I get you to do a couple of things for me?
Yes.
One, can you say, like, I don't know how you say it. I am Dr. James Brown, or I'm James Brown. I don't know how you say it, but can you give me one of those?
You mean just as an introduction?
So what I have to do is I have to turn in some season greetings things. And so I'm going to say,
Hmm.
I'm Sandra Bishop, and you'd say,
Got it.
and yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So I just want to drop, so you can just say it by yourself, and then I'm going to splice it in. And then if you want to say seasons greetings or happy holidays or something like that, I just have to turn those in.
Good morning. I am Dr. James Brown, willing that everyone has a very productive winter solstice.
Thank you.
Hmm.
All right, there we go. And now I could go live on Facebook. So I'm excited about talking to you about several different things, but I want to do the winter solstice first, since you had already indicated that. And then I want to talk a little bit about the cancer.
Sure.
Mm. All right, here we go. And so it's I want to say it's a cloudy day out there, but it's and is it crisp, or how's it feeling out there to you?
It is crisp. It is crisp. It's about 38 degrees, but it's not bitter.
Mm,
There's not
crisp
much
or
wind, but it is definitely crisp, and there's a little bit of mist, and so we're feeling the real energy of fall turning into winter. It will be officially winter next week.
yes, yes. And the winter solstice, this is a major thing for us.
Well, the thing is, our modern life has kind of really separated us from the natural order of how the energy on this planet moves. As we move from one season to another season, as we move from one point in the revolution around the sun to another, energy shifts. But because we don't live our lives anymore in accordance with that, we don't necessarily pay attention to the effects that it has on us. We'll just say, oh, I'm feeling a certain way, I'm feeling a certain this, I feel like this, I feel like this, and not recognizing that we are being affected by the energy on this planet. And so at this point in the Earth's revolution around the sun, we notice that our nights have been getting longer and longer and longer, and they will continue to do so until December the 21st. On December the 21st through the 24th, those will be the longest 4 nights of the year. And of course, we understand that that nocturnal energy is related to the yin energy of existence. So the daylight is the yang energy, that's our externalized energy. But our nights are getting longer and longer and longer. And so that yin energy, but also the absence of sunlight for these long periods of time has an effect on us. One of the benefits of it is, I don't know if others have noticed it, but your melatonin starts to be produced at an early and earlier time in the evening. And I have seen some posts on Facebook where somebody says, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that 12:30 midnight came at 6:30 in the evening, meaning that they were feeling like the night, that it was, I'm tired, it's really time to go to sleep. But that's because of the presence of the melatonin that's being produced at high levels for all this time. And one of the things that the melatonin does is it helps us to go into that dream state of sleep a lot easier. And the significance of the winter solstice can be appreciated when you go around the world and you see all of these structures that were built with large amounts of public capital, whether it was in Chichen Itza, whether it was in Stonehenge. Certainly, the most famous are, are the three pyramids in on the Giza Plateau, which on the winter solstice, you look up in the sky, and prominent in the sky is the constellation of Orion, and you see the three stars of Orion's belt, which are mimicked by the three pyramids on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, also, they have built this structure which is to time appropriately the star of Sirius rising in one part of the sky, and Orion's belt in the other. And they built this pyramid such that they would know the exact time of the winter solstice. And this thing is mammoth. It took 30 years to build, and all this labor and capital, and all of these places all around the world. But we don't stop to think, like, why did they think that this was so important? That they would put all of this public labor, energy, time, and money into constructing all these sites to know when was the equinox and when was the solstice, and especially the winter solstice. And the significance of it is we have all these stories around this, so many mythical figures.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't say that Christ was a mythical figure. That's not the point. However, but we do have other gods that were born of a virgin on December the 25th that rose to prominence, were resurrected, died, and were resurrected. So what is this thing about this Messiah, this Savior being born on December the 25th? Well, one of the aspects of it is that as the night is so, the nights have gotten shorter and shorter and shorter. And you notice during the daytime, the sun is lower and lower on the horizon at its peak. But on December the 25th, the sun starts to be 1 degree higher in the sky. It is literally dying now as the nights get longer and longer and longer. It stays out of our awareness for a longer period of time. But on December the 25th, it starts to get longer. The days get 1 minute longer all the way up until spring. And then in springtime, the daytime is longer than the nighttime. It's resurrected again.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the point of all these 4 days where the nights stay the same length of time and for so long? And that is, this is one of the times of the year that you can really accomplish a lot of spiritual work. Because if you do the right things, but of course we're encouraged, go out shop, go out party, go ahead and drink, go ahead and eat, as opposed to doing the exact opposite. The yin period of time is when we're supposed to be introverted, turning your consciousness inward. And if you're really serious about your spiritual work, you can accomplish a whole lot. I had a guy tell me a long time ago that the nighttime is the best time to do your meditations, and you can accomplish some spiritual work. That the full moon is a good time, and it's like having a Ferrari at your disposal in terms of the acceleration of your progress. The equinoxes and the summer solstice is like having a rocket to the moon. Tremendous amount of propulsion and huge velocity to escape the Earth's pull. However, the winter solstice was like having one of those UFOs that would go that would go light years of speed to other galaxies. That's how fast the acceleration of your growth can be if you do it wisely. And wisely is spend a lot of time, as much as possible, in meditation, in thought, and in prayer. Take an inventory of where you are in your life and where you want to go, and spend a lot of time on looking at what are the things in me that are holding me back. and then meditate on erasing those things, on putting in a higher identity. Hold yourself to a higher standard. If you've got anger issues, if you've got sadness issues, if you've got health issues, spend some time during this really important time of the year. And I can guarantee you, if you can also fast during that time, and if you're not used to fasting, just do 24 hours. But if you are used to fasting, fast the entire 4 days using water and orange juice, and just spend your time in reflective thought, meditation. You can have lucid dreams, you can have epiphanies, revelations. I guarantee you, it is truly the most, what is it? What do they say? The happiest time of the year, the best time of the year, the miracle of Christmas.
Mhm.
And certainly the whole analogy of getting the gifts at Christmas, and especially think about January the 6th, which is the what? The Epiphany.
Mm.
If you can hold on to that work for that length of time, truly you will download through your intuitive process a lot of understanding of what you need to do going forward for the new year. For truly, the beginning of the year is not January 1st, it's December 25th. That's when the new day starts again as the sun becomes 1 degree, as the day becomes 1 minute longer every day. And that was just my little spiel. It's an important time of the year. Our ancestors all over the world, no matter what their cultures, went through great lengths to look at this time of the year and then do something with themselves about it.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting. I don't know when it was, how many years ago I first noticed it, but a lot of times we don't even notice what happens with the sun and how it goes. And I don't know how many years ago I started paying attention to where the sun is in reference to, like, even sitting in my office. At first in the springtime, it's coming right in at me. And then as
Yeah.
winter time comes, it goes further and further back. And you could just see it as if it is following a pathway until it gets as far back as possible. And then it begins to come back forward again.
Right.
And I love it when we're able to look. I mean, it's something that if people grew up on farms or something, it's easy for you to be in communion with how things change, where the sunlight falls or where it hits at certain times of year. But if you're not connected, which is, I don't know, by design, but if you're not connected, you might miss the entire process.
And your agrarian analogy is so apropos, because this is the time of the year that we're actually going to plant seeds into the psyche, into the spirit, that we expect to start to see the growth of in the spring,
Mhm.
and that will come to full bloom and manifestation at the summer solstice. And so that whole planting and seeding philosophy, that is why so many of the ancient quote unquote gods were agrarian, that they brought, seeds and taught people how to plant and how to farm, and they're associated with corn and wheat, et cetera, because they understood those were metaphors for what we're doing with the spirit. There's a time to plant, there's a time to harvest, there's a time to work, there's a time to rest.
Mhm. That's really good. And so right now, there's this, I- you brought up so much in what you talked about, that what people call the pagan holidays were superimposed upon, they took the Christian holidays and put it up above that. And
Yes.
and the traditional holiday of lights then became this idea about Christmas rather than the holiday when light was reborn. So
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm. But in their way, they tried, it's kind of camouflage because that Christ figure, is so associated in so many ways with light. The nimbus around the head, the illumination. So it's codified if you understand the keys to unlock the symbols. But this whole idea um, of being so externalized at this time, when it is so valuable a point in the year when you can get so much work done. So not telling anybody not to enjoy themselves or enjoy their family, but if you can, truly, you want to get some work done, this is the best time to get some work done.
yeah. And I do believe that we all need to pay attention to the symbols and question their meaning. Why do we bring an evergreen into the house? What's the symbol of a wreath? Why all the
Yeah.
lights? I mean, you could go down the list and ask yourself the question about where this all began. And if you just follow the breadcrumbs,
Yeah.
it does hold some wonderful information for you.
Yes, ma'am. Correct. Absolutely.
So Kimberly said that she is in full prep mode. So
My buddy. My buddy.
yes, the ride or die. Thank you. So Kimberly, so I wanted to talk a little bit today. We've done a show on seasonal affective disorder. So I'm always encouraging people to do whatever they need to do to kind of maintain their mental health during this time. But also having said that, to be able to respect some of the natural dips that would without taking it um to the degree of being a pathology, but to recognize that this is a natural process uh,
Mhm.
for so many of us. But I wanted to talk a little bit about I've got some friends that um, have recently been diagnosed with cancer. And I am usually, I'm one of those people that believes everything comes with its own gift, its own message. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about cancer. Um, so many times, so often, it is greeted as if it is the Grim Reaper, that it is all downhill from there. But there is another way of really viewing cancer. That reminds me of a song that I used to sing all the time, "The Gifts the Storm May Bring."
Mhm.
And a lot of times we're thinking about the storm without necessarily looking beyond it to see what else there is to see. What if when people are confronted with the idea of cancer's presence, what is a good what how do you see it, and what's a good way to approach that?
Well, number one, I heard some information and it is proving to be true about 8 years ago. And it said by 2025, 1 out of every 2 men will have a diagnosis of cancer in their lifetime, and 1 out of every 3 women. So this is going to be, and like you're saying, you just know some friends now who were just recently diagnosed. And so we see that this is going to become a very common diagnosis, if not in us, in people close to us. And there's enough studies that reflect on the, shall we just say, the psychology of the immune system, because it is the immune system's job to fight malignancies. It fights any foreign invader, bacteria, virus, substances, chemicals. The immune system goes to work on many levels. Having cells that are no longer obeying the regulatory process and just doing their own thing, not concerned with the function of the organ that they're in, but growing unregulated, not producing the chemicals or the substances that the other cells around them are producing, and just being completely out of line. It's the immune system's job to find, seek, and destroy those cells. Its job is to put things back in harmony and balance and order. And there's been enough investigation on things that enhance the immune system and things that weaken the immune system. And one of those things that weaken the immune system certainly is our attitude and our thoughts. So it would be not uncommon that somebody that sits in the doctor's office and hears this word, even if they're suspecting it, when it comes out of the professional's mouth, it has an effect. Now, the whole goal would be to minimize the devastating effect that it can have. So you're right, some people will hear that word and think that life is over, I'm done, it's all downhill from here. But other people, because we're all built differently, can hear that and say, wow, I am in the fight for my life. And so the things that I'm going to find out, everything I need to know and do to help whatever treatment that they're going to give me, to help this treatment right along. And many times the treatment can be successful in terms of killing the cancer, but sometimes that therapy can be so powerful, if you don't have the right attitude and mindset to do all the other things to support yourself, you will die as a result of the treatment, but not of the cancer. You'll die from having a poor appetite. You'll die because the immune system was not weak enough to fight off a bacteria that gave you pneumonia, or the bacteria that caused a urinary tract infection that got into your blood. Because of you're not paying attention to having the right kinds of foods, activities, and certainly the positive thoughts. I have seen so many times, and the evidence bears out in the journals, that you can, if you tell somebody, you can have two patients with the exact stage of cancer, tell them the same thing, and you can measure the function of the immune system of the one that takes it as the worst possible news and goes into a downward spiral of depression, and look at the activity of the immune system, and the immune system has all the markers of depression. The white blood cells just sit there on the slide. They don't move around. They're not active. The person who has this, wow, okay, I'm on this journey, and let's see how this takes it, because you know what? I'm like Muhammad Ali. I will get my jaw broken. I will get knocked down. I will take all these blows from George Foreman, and I will rope this dope, and I'll still be here at the end when they're tired, and I'll come on strong. And watch those white blood cells. They'll move all over the slides. They're very active. They're very vitalized. They're looking for something to attack. And the difference is attitude and emotions, because those thoughts that we have will summon up a certain kind of energy. And the energy that you need is a vitalized, energetic energy. And that only comes with joy, and peace and happiness.
Mm,
All the others, regret, frustration, resentment, anger at the diagnosis, all these things will harm the immune system, which is what you're counting on to save you, along with whatever else that you're doing. But your immune system has to be the one in there killing all these cells.
mm. That's such a good point. And I think at one point you said the immune system. I think it's when it's at its strongest, it can do the fighting. Or
Yes.
when it's strong. Yeah, and I think you might have said weakened, but we got what you
Okay.
were saying, right? Now here's the thing, because and here's the thing, when a person has, we talked about this before, when they've been diagnosed with, say, for instance, prostate cancer or lung cancer, would you say that is the result of some kind of something that needs healing in a mental emotional level, as well as
You know, cancer is a multifactorial a disease. And so when I was bringing up the statistics about 1 in 2 men, 1 in 3 women, what we're looking at for the most part, the toxic environment in which we live. So that is definitely an effect. The air, the water, the food, plastic all around us, which affects our endocrine system. So all of these things certainly cause cells to mutate and become cancerous. Now, that happens to all of us. And the immune system, for the most part, for most of our lives, is very successful as finding these 3, 4, 5 cells which have gotten out of order and kill them. But the cancer becomes when those cells aren't recognized, and now the 5 become 10, the 10 become 20, the 20 become on and on and on and on.
Mhm.
And now you've got a tumor, you've got a growth, a lump, a lesion. And so besides the external things that can do that, the way we live our lives enhance or take away from the immune system. And so certainly the idea that walking around with a negative view of life, a woe is me kind of thing, or harboring resentment, certainly with the sex organs, the malignancies down there have a lot to do with whether or not, our sexual lives have been in some way affected, or our thoughts about our feminine or masculine manhood, whether or not we've, the ideas and constructs we have about what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman. All of these factors also come into play in terms of cancer in that area. Lung cancer certainly has to do with the inability to let go of something, which is the primary root of grief. Something we lose a loved one, we lose a job, our relationship changes, and we're unable to let go of the sadness that occurs with that. Of course, that when we lose something, momentarily you will feel something. It's only the indulgence of that energy over time then that causes the weakening in the lung system, and then you can start now to have recurrent bronchitis. You can develop asthma. You start to have wheezing and shortness of breath, or you're more prone to infections, coughs, and colds during this time of year. And yes, at the long term, if you've done other things, then lung cancer.
Mm,
But they all do come with an emotional disturbance, because emotions are energy.
mm,
It's the energy that we move. So when you're feeling happy, it's energy that's moving through you. If you're feeling sad, it's a form of energy. If you're fearful, it's a form of energy. And these energies do have sources in our body. Fear is associated with the urinary tract system and the kidneys. Happiness is associated with the heart. Sadness is associated with the lungs. Worry with the stomach. So, there is a emotional anatomy, so to speak,
Mm,
that we have to, be aware of and recognize, pay attention, and recognize that you are not the feeling. So you can stand back and observe the feeling and recognize, you know what? This is healthy. This is not healthy. Where's it coming from? It is not me, but it will affect this vehicle that I inhabit. So the I must start to set up a program to fix this, recognize it and fix it. Just don't walk around in the feeling,
right.
wow, I'm just gripped with sadness. No, this vehicle is feeling this energy. And now our job is, because this is where we live, this is our temple. This is where we are expecting God to manifest itself in here. It can't manifest itself in here if I'm afraid, if I'm sad, if I'm sorrowful. It only manifests it when I'm happy and when I'm at peace. When
Mm,
I know that I am that aspect of the creator, which is the source of the love and of this planet. I know that. And when we have these other ideas about it is when we identify with the emotion, and then we're going down that rabbit hole, and that's when that emotion can end up affecting whatever physiologically is going on, and either help it along or destroy it.
wow. That's amazing. Good stuff. Now, here's a question along the same line, but taken in slightly a different way. One of the things that I have said is what we struggle against, we empower by making it seem as if it is a worthy adversary. You told me before, as Bruce Lee said, be like water, right? When we take up on the attitude that cancer is this big Goliath and we're the little David, do you think that we are empowering something to be bigger than it is, or do we need to, how do you think about this when you think about it in
So,
how we
and
approach it?
and and here's the other line of thought. This isn't the first time we've had an incarnation and been on earth. This is
Mhm.
not the first time. If I die, if the cancer wins and I die, it won't be the first time I've died.
Mhm.
And I'll be back again, because the grace and mercy of whatever you call God is that energy energy just changes form. And consciousness has no energy or matter, so it can't be destroyed. And the consciousness that you are is the being that is the I that we speak about. So that will never go anywhere. It will come and incarnate, or it goes back to source. So sometimes you may have to take the long view, in that the I, is that I'm going to do everything I can to be peaceful and happy on this ride of going through these treatments and this and that and the other and doing whatever I have. But you know what? I am going to die in peace. I'm going to die with grace. And no, I'm sorry. This vehicle will transition in grace and in dignity.
Mhm.
I'm not going to go crying and whining into the good night. Why? Because I'm convinced I've done my work well enough. I will come back and wake up and know this past experience, and I won't make the mistakes I made this time.
Mm.
But I am not going anywhere.
Right.
And
But
so we're so attached to what we have now,
mm,
not thinking about, you've done this before. You've died countless of times before. You have simply forgotten. And part of trying to really advance your spiritual growth is that you do actually form a vehicle that stays constant so that when you come back, you can inhabit the memories of your previous lives. That's the immortality that all the Europeans came to look for in the fountain of youth and the secret of immortality. That's the immortality. I come back and I can have access to all the other lives and all the other things that I did before and all the knowledge and wisdom that I accumulated. Now I'm truly immortal.
yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good. There is so much, I guess people invest things with a lot of fear. And
Yes.
it's almost like there's this feeling of being on this slippery slope. And and it's unfortunate sometimes because we start to think about all the things that we didn't get done in this particular go round. So we're grasping, people
Yeah.
people grasp at things rather than
Stay
just
in the now. Stay
yeah,
in the now. Because
yeah.
that's all that we have. The past only lives in your mind.
Hmm.
The future only exists in your mind. This is eternity right now.
Yes. Yeah.
This is eternity right now. And when you sit and like you just took that big sigh and you breathe it in and you feel it, you understand that there is no behind me, there is no in front of me. What I have, so I'm going to make the best of right now. And how do I do that? I'm going to be happy and enjoy this moment. If there's something going on that could be quarrelsome or a challenge, okay, I may not enjoy that, but you know what? I've grown myself to the point where I can be at peace in the midst of this storm, and I'll just enjoy the peace.
Mm.
So I can always be at joy. I can always be, I may not like the car accident that occurred, but if I'm peaceful, I recognize, okay, I'm not damaging myself. I'm not injuring myself. I'm not sending my cortisol level high. I'm not raising my blood sugar, not raising my blood pressure. And I can sit and enjoy the peace. And as I'm doing that, maybe what will come to me is, what was the significance of this happening here and now? What's the message in this for me? Because none of the events in our lives are random.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, people talk about mathematics is the language of the a universe. If you really study how things grow and move, they've been very, very good at finding a mathematical formula to explain everything. Like even how the branches on the leaves come out at a certain level, at a certain point, and how they rotate around as they're going up. They have mathematical formulas for all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
if there are mathematical formulas for those, why would there not be a formula for your life? Why do you think things are random? There are a series of choices that we've made, which has put us on a course. And if you can be at peace and enjoy the peace, maybe you can see the pattern in your life. And the worst thing that we can do is die fearfully,
Mm.
because truly that is the hell that you go to, because your consciousness is not going to go anywhere. You still have a consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you're regretful and you're angry and you're resentful before you die, you're going to carry that over there. That's the hell that you will exist in, not forever and ever. God is not, the system doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
Until you come back again and get a body, have a life again, because this life is about overcoming all those challenges, going through these things. even if it's the death by cancer, but going through it, how? As a God would go through it.
Yeah.
As a God would go through it. I'm going to create something out of this now.
Yes. Yes, I received that. That is so good. I want to just for a second, when you were talking, the image came up for me of those that you asked me to look at through that Webb telescope.
Yeah.
And when you look up at and visualize these stars, it seems as though some of them have this, like they're encased, kind of like you
Uh-huh.
told me about the heart is encased,
Yes.
right? And I wonder if that encasement is what happens just before the birth, before that star busts out into its glory.
Uh-huh.
And you know, as I think about the stars and what it must be to be a star up in the sky, I also think about our lives and how, if I see patterns in everything everywhere, you know, how can I help but see it in that star, the stardust, and its own rebirth. And so I think that sometimes we people in general, because of the cultural idea, we forget to see the beauty and the joy that is inherent in the life and the process. Because so much of what we so much is about and I'll say it this way, it's about the money to be made off of our fear. Because there's one thing to have the fear, but then there's another thing, there's the money that is made in dealing with all the stuff around it. We know that all things like anything that is physical dies. I mean, or whatever we
Right.
want to call it, if it's physical, that will have a death, but our resurrection too is always possible. And that's kind of like the sign of Christmas. I mean, it's
Everything is born, grows, gets old, dies, and is born again. It's no different from it's going to be night soon, and then it'll be day soon. It's winter, it will be spring. That message is all around us if we pay attention to. We're no less than that. Stars are born, they grow, they develop, they shrink, they die, and then new stars are born again. What, why do we think we are any less than that when we have been deemed, those beings, to be the vehicles of God on this planet? We're designed to be that. So why would we be no less to have this rebirth cycle until we are the perfected being that can actually live and walk and talk and speak as all the divine beings who have come before us, and that our words are the sagacious words of the God, that our acts are the miracles that we hold so dear to the other beings that we know that have walked. That's what we're designed to do. So why would we be lying, rotting away? No, the soil that we are is going to be used again.
yeah.
The consciousness will go back to its source and then come back again to keep doing the work, because God wants to live on this planet through us. It made this beautiful planet not just for show, to have fun in, to enjoy.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. This
I
is
appreciate you.
perfect. This is so perfect. And I appreciate you sharing, pouring out. My friend James on here, when I introduced this topic, he says, "Oh my God, I was just diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer." And who knew? I did not know that. And I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing so I can hold consciousness with you,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And that's why, I attended a ceremony where we were with a good friend who was dying. His wife got all of his friends, and we just sat around and we sang to him, and people went around and said things to him. It took maybe about 9 hours, but
mhm,
we were there the entire time. It was one of the best, truly homegoing ceremonies, because it wasn't after his consciousness was left. It was while he was still there and he knew that he was going. I got a chance to do the same thing with my father. So if you have to go, being with family and friends and expressing love and going in a loving fashion, if you have to go, not saying because, we're not going to give up.
right.
We're going to, because this life is precious, and we're going to keep staying and meditating for James, sending James energy. And especially at this time of year, we can really send a lot of energy
Hmm.
and help him as best as we can. As you say, our prayer list gets longer and longer every day because we see this. And
Hmm.
those of us who still have the health are charged with sending that love and that light to as many people as we can, as often as we can, for as long as we can.
Yes, yes, yes. And so on that last point, one of the things that Joseph Campbell talked about was this idea that Jesus had a whole party before he went through the process of his ending. And he
Yeah,
says, when you can enter as the Lord of the dance and celebrate, knowing
yeah,
that this
exactly.
this is what it's for, you've empowered yourself in a whole new way. It's not like surrendering, but rather going triumphant.
Um, and there are other shamanistic cultures who do the same thing, a literal dance before they leave. And the Buddhist monks, a lot of them, the Tibetan monks, are aware when their time has come, and they just sit down, go into trance, and go from one state to the other state, you
Yes.
know. So
But we're not giving up. And so
no,
until
no,
that day, yes,
until that day,
yes,
right? We're going to
yes,
keep having fun.
yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Brown.
Reverend Sandra Bishop, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Have an
Okay.
amazing day.
And you too. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. You guys, thank you so much for being here. I tell you that when I get to talk to Dr. Brown, it is just like, wow, it's so good. So I thank you. Thank you, James, for sharing yourself with us. Thank you, Kimberly. I'm holding prayer for my friend Raymont too, Reverend Raymont, and I am sending blessings to you. So please share this if it blessed you at all. Share this. All right. Take care. I'll see you in the morning. Love, love, love.